Welcome back, folks. We're here for set number 2. Started off the day with, I guess, technically set 3. We started off with our challenger scene. We got to see Burrito travel on. They'll be facing everybody else in the gauntlet stages, but this is our second of the Pro League. Here we have CC versus Obey. Obey are in position number 2.
And Energy have already qualified for Super Regionals with 10 points. It's impossible for Cringe Crew or Cyclone to catch them. They are still playing for that ever so important first seed. Obviously, whoever comes second has to face Orbit. I'm sure Energy would much rather face off against Sanguine.
Like we said, Obey and Cringe Crew still running for it. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want to introduce a good friend of mine.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much, Tom.
All the way from Indiana, we have Spiff Sinister.
Okay.
I'm from Florida.
Real talk, though, we actually have my buddy hi-rez, longtime friend, actually. Used to play on Team Dignitas. We got to know each other a little bit there. And now here playing in one of the Challenger Cup teams, and you're going to grace us on the desk.
Yes, indeed. I'll be analyzing this set and hopefully give maybe a bit of insight, because I know the Obey guys pretty well. I'm pretty good friends with them. I'll be rooting for them, of course. I want them to
bias.
go.
Already with the bias, Rins.
They asked me to.
That's true bias. They're like, yo, talk us up real quick. We're the best.
But we're glad to have an SPL caliber player here on the desk with us to dive into this one, because this is Cringe Crew versus Obey. I think we started off the day nice and easy, kind of watching Cringe Crew do whatever they wanted to Cyclone GG. But against Obey, it's going to be a different story. I think Obey is probably considered by many of the fans to be the top card, but at the same time, I think you're looking at a very small differential of skill.
I think from day one, after watching Cringe Crew's performance day 1 and day 2, you're definitely thinking Obey is going to take this pretty easily. But honestly, Cringe Crew had a really solid set, and I think the key here is that Kero looks so much more comfortable right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Cringe Crew's draft has improved as well. They really worked well with the Athena and the Erlang Shen against Cyclone. So it'll be interesting to see if Obey is going to counter that somehow, ban it away, or pick it themselves. I don't know if they have any strat against that, but it'll definitely be an important point into beating Cringe Crew, I think.
I was also really impressed with the consistency of Zyrhoes. I said that last set was pretty much the first time I ever really looked at Zyrhoes as a true solo laner. A lot of times in this fall split, I've said, okay, Zyrhoes is still making the transition from mid to solo. We saw a couple of little growing pains here and there, but those 2 Erlang Shen games, he played it just as strong as any other solo.
And, it's pretty common knowledge that transitioning roles into solo is the hardest. There's so many just micro things that happen in that lane that do not happen in other lanes that are more kind of farm oriented. One misstep in that lane can result in a death. One, lapse in judgment there, not paying attention to the minimap will result into a gank. You're very tanky, but in the early game, you're very vulnerable to those junglers.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Zyrhoes has done a pretty good job so far transitioning into that role. He's definitely still getting used to it, but he's getting the hang of it, and he's also being able to pressure the other solo laner more and more often, with the Erlang Shen as well. So yeah, I think he's been doing pretty well on it, and I'm excited to see him do better or not.
Certainly a big transformation, not just for him, but how it affects the rest of the squad as well. And then, like you said, Kero has been a big part. And those are the 2 players that I think really needs to step it up here this weekend. We've already seen Shaggyshenk really do a lot of work, so it's a lot of fun to see everybody else sort of really come together with the guys on this crew. So Cringe Crew, a really big team, and they're headed up against Obey Alliance, who we'll talk a little bit about. Ataraxia, pretty much one of the namesake characters.
Yeah, Ataraxia has been playing at a very high level for a long time, but there's a lot of talk about not so much his consistency, but his passive play. Almost too passive in lane.
Yeah, definitely. He said that it's the first time he got soloed ever, because he normally never likes to fight. So maybe after he got soloed first once, he'll be more aggressive now. That's like, oh, I got soloed, so...
He did say that to me this morning. I was talking to him, and he's like, I got soloed, so I don't care anymore. There's no longer protecting against getting soloed in an SPL game, but I mean, we'll see if that's the case here.
For sure, and it all gets tied together in the support role, right? EmilZy's opposition is going to be PANDALIKE. He's one of these guys that very aggressive in everything he does. I loved his point in his interview before where he said, yeah, I mean, ever since I joined, this team has been good.
I mean, to be fair, it did get a lot better when he joined. I think they went, 14-2, 14-3 to close out the spring split after starting something, absurd like 1-7. And he just brings this very aggressive tendency that they didn't have in the support role before with Zinderd. But there is issues, right? We see him make so many phenomenal plays, but every once in a while, he always just gets a little bit too aggressive, just barely.
Yeah, I mean, that's just his playstyle. That's how he works, and that's how the team works around him as well. Most of the time, it works out for them. And it's just the same with the other top EU supports, Refra and Trixtank, all similar playstyles. And yeah, I think frezy or PANDALIKE, he just likes to do his own thing and let his team follow up on it and make the enemy team really confused in what he's doing. He'll sometimes rotate to the enemy backcamps and they're like, what is this guy doing at level 2? And that's exactly what he wants to do. He just wants to confuse the enemy and have no idea what's going on.
Exactly. Kind of the other side of the world here for... I don't know what EmilZy's trying to do.
He's trying to look fancy, but he messed it up and he realized, all right, let's bail out of this one. Not embarrass ourselves too much.
Either way, EmilZy winds up being the true guardian of this squad. The young gun EmilZy has been involved in Smite for a long time, and now he's finally trying to make his way up to Super Regionals.
EmilZy, he's almost
Good job,
like Trixtank. Super aggressive. Sets up a lot for his team.
He's 16 right now, yeah. Used to be, when he was my coach for Team Coast, he was like 13 or 14 or something, yeah.
He's good, but when Nils comes out, that's like his alter ego, the bad side, then it's just full tilt.
Yeah, he can go full Nils in scrims, that's what we call it, like when you fucking... Yeah, when he plays Solbeck and like gods with like pulls, like skill shot that you need to hit. When he's not playing well, that's not a good side.
And we told him to leave Nils at home for LAN.
He can be so good as well. Like when he's playing his best, I feel like he's definitely one of the best supports out there.
I never used to rate him in lane, but he's improved so much and he's kept up, his consistency in team fights too. So he should be a good one to watch.
He's so young as well, So I feel like if he just starts playing a lot, I think he can probably be the best support in the world.
Zyrhoes has so much insight in these videos. It's always a pleasure to hear him speak on these characters. But I think. What was it? Repikas and iRafa really noticed what I wanted to bring up is just the growth of EmilZy, right? He started at one point, but these days he's a very impactful support.
Yeah, and he kind of runs his team. He is the shot caller. He's the captain as well, so they really rely on his calls to make sure the game goes in their direction. And I think he did a really good job against Cyclone. We saw a lot of Gold Furies go uncontested, and that was just his kind of knowledge of where everyone is on the map at the time.
Yeah, EmilZy definitely has a really good game sense. Obviously, he used to coach before he got a pro play, and that really helps him have a good view of what's the best thing to do at what time.
Obey Alliance is going to select Athena here to start things off, taking it away from Cringe Crew, who has been very successful with that. But that gives Cringe Crew the option of Freya and Fafnir.
And that's one of the best supports to pair with Fafnir. Obviously has a lot of pressure in lane, really high damage. And obviously the coerce to help Freya clear out that lane is always critical. I do like what Obey Alliance done. We talked about it in the last set where Athena has been so devastating for Cringe Crew, and Obey just leave it open. They just leave it open and they first pick it away from them.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's definitely what they plan to do. Ban out the Erlang and pick Athena first. I'm not sure if they expected the Fafnir Freya. I mean, those are two really top picks, so they should thought about it at least and know what to do against it. So hopefully the Raijin Ymir is a part of that and will be able to counter that somehow.
I mean, the Ymir certainly, just looking at variety, he has single-handedly carried games on the Ymir or tier, and, giving him the Ice Giant is something very scary. Batz, though, I want to call this guy the character of the weekend. We've seen more Batz, more successful Batz than I think any other character so far.
And yeah, I mean, Batz is very dynamic because even if he gets behind, he can still make an impact in a team fights. The issue is when he gets really far behind and he can't really contest his buffs. Sure, he can throw out his ultimate and secure them. We saw that from Twig just the other day, but the issue with that is that you leave yourself open for those Gold Furies to be taken. So it's going to be really important for Cringe Crew to make sure to have pressure somewhere in the other lanes. And I think Obey know that. They immediately take away the Isis, lock away the Robin, the two gods that control both the solo and mid lane in those first 6 to 7 levels.
Janus will be the selection for Kero here over on Cringe Crew. And option over Obey, they've got two more choices.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick the AD carry and I guess what's missing.
It depends, right? Because that Ymir is always flex. I do think it's going to variety in the solo lanes, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Twig plays it, but it could be definitely in a scope bull. Ataraxia not looking in the Chiron, I guess that it wasn't super great yesterday.
Yeah, I actually talked to him, and he said he really loves the Chiron, obviously, but against the Freya, he felt like he didn't have enough pressure. He wasn't really able to pressure him out of lane, where most matchups he does have that. And it looks like the Ram, not typically a god we see out of Ataraxia.
He is very good at hitting the snipes, though. Maybe not this season, he hasn't played it that much, but definitely last season. He's always been a really good Ram player, and he knows how to use him in every scenario and not roll into walls like me.
He brought it up.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Bastet, however, comes out of the woodwork. You know, we saw a lot of it. She's a specialty god. I think she's absolutely fantastic. And believe it or not, you know, I think she's a one-size-fits-all character, but she's not in the wheelhouse of a lot of our junglers. DJ Pernicus out of North America, obviously last week, did a lot of work on it. Have you ever seen CaptainTwig play this character before?
I have seen it definitely before, and I know he can definitely play it. Hasn't played it often, of course. I mean, you can see his team never picked it before. But to pick it at LAN here, he must have some level of confidence in it, of course. They're not just going to randomly pick it. So I think Obey is happy with picking it. And I think they have the confidence in Twig that he can do work with it.
So one more question for you, Renz. Holistically, look at the whole picks and bans. Who do you think has this one, Obey or Cringe?
I would say Obey because they have more pressure overall. I think they have more pressure in the dual lane. The Athena Rama should outweigh the Fafnir Freya. And Raijin definitely has more as the winning lane in mid. So it's gonna be up to Cringe Crew to prove Obey or to like get more pressure over Obey, I think, during the mid game.
And Kevin?
I actually really like both compositions, and I think it's going to come down to how well they execute each one. Obey have a lot of CC in their kits. They also have the Bastet. Really good matchup against the Freya. Can jump in, get a lot of free poke before she can even take to this guy. We know those dots kill those Freyas often. But Cringe Crew, I think the linchpin here is going to be Kero and how they utilize this Janus to rotate themselves across the map and make sure that Obey can't really get ahead in the early game.
For me, it's the guy on screen. Harry Cummings has Ymir. We're going to see Variety do it. Casters, Hindu, and Anatoly drive us to the game.
Thanks so much, Eftel and the analysts. Obviously, this game very important totally for both these two teams. Obey just needs to win one of them to guarantee themselves Super Regionals.
Just 1 point would put them at 8, which would only allow Cringe Crew to get 1 point of their own, heading at 7. So mathematically, it would be Obey advancing. And now, looking at the compositions, I love the mobility theme coming out of Cringe Crew between this Janus and Amaterasu.
And the global presence is what I'm looking at here. Adonis touched it on the desk, and it's going to be Janus with the global ultimate, but you've also got Athena as well. And when you've got a Bastet, played by CaptainTwig this game, who's going to be looking to split push if possible, Janus comes into play.
Both teams are very mobile. Both teams have global pressure or semi-global pressure with the Rama as well, making those half rotations. Should be able to make an impact in the mid lane before Shaggyshenk. I'm expecting maybe a lot of action coming out of Twig. Normally, he's playing these CC gods and invading speed buffs, but I literally think that this Bastet pick was designed to try to focus out Shaggyshenk on the Freya.
Actually, funny from Obey here, if you looked at their position of their jungler and solo laner there, they were really worried about a potential invader, cheeky, cheesy strategy at the start of the game, just to put some pressure on, especially when Cringe Crew, this is so important for them.
It's not a bad idea to try to look for an invade on Obey because Bastet level 1, not the strongest god realistically, but the Ymir, however, does a lot of damage, but he's very immobile. So as long as you can avoid that ice carpet, you could potentially lock him down.
Well, there's not going to be an invade coming out at the start of this one. Twig will get a speed buff nice and easy here. The rotation to the blue from both the teams here, you can see they're about even pace at the moment, but it should actually go pretty evenly to the lane. It's going to be interesting where the junglers go from here.
And looking at the Wrath selections between these two teams, EmilZy starting off with the Wrath, being able to get to the dual laning phase pretty easily. Kero taking a little bit of poke in mid lane, but should be able to be fine. CaptainTwig now grouping up on the right mids.
He should be fine, but at the same time, he just used that health potion already in the lane at the first 40 seconds of the game. That means Janus is going to have a little less sustain left now. He will steal one by the looks of it, but the other one goes the way of Obey.
very bold and risky move to use your portal to try to lock that down, because now you don't have a natural escape, and luckily for him, CaptainTwig didn't want to go on the offensive there quite yet. The pounce was available.
That's true. He did have the pounce up, which I'm surprised at. I wasn't sure who was going to go for the lash, but normally you do go for the pounce just for that safety feature. Same way you can see Repikas went for that somersault.
And now Kero should be able to hit level 5 before PrettyPriMe as a result of that one little mid-harpy steal. As long as he gets his back harpies a little bit quicker, which should be the case because you're Janus, you have the threshold, so you'll be able to get to the back harpies before your opposition will get to theirs.
EmilZy's dishing out a bit of hammer time to Ataraxia there, playing the Rama this game alongside PANDALIKE, but over in the solo lane, Variety having his way so far with Zyrhoes, which you could expect in the early stages.
That's a lot of damage, and this is the issue with Amaterasu in the solo lane. You have to be relatively close to the lane, and Ymir, that's exactly what you want. You want to have the enemy god come closer to you, so you can freeze him, freeze the melee minutes, and then line up your glacial strike to hit the god and the mini wave at the same time.
And most of the times, Zyrhoes just needs to focus on the farm in this early game here, not look at trying to poke out and trade with Variety. It won't necessarily work overall, and you can see the potion investment by both of them.
Right now, Zyrhoes is slacking a little bit, not having that one extra multi-pot for Variety, and Variety built into this tank with the Mark of the Vanguard, whereas Zyrhoes is going for the Death's Toll, which is not something you really want to do because you don't want to be sitting there in-handing against the Ymir, who's just going to be chunking you down with his passive.
Well, I mean, normally it does give you some sustain or some extra health. You could have gone for the blue stone, though.
Absolutely.
Totally,
I think
the blue stone, I mean, it doesn't give you health, though.
No, it doesn't give you the health that you really need, but it does give you the mana as well as being able to clear the wave a little bit quicker. You're relying on getting through that early laning phase and then get the levels that you need because your stand switch is what you're relying on to get back the health instead of the Death's Tolls in hands.
When you look at the duo lane there, you can see the pressure that Cringe Crew have at the moment. All down to that Wrath at the beginning of the game. They got them to lane just a little bit quicker than expected, and keeping the Athena and Rama on the back foot is a better place to be in. You don't want an Athena able to dash into you deep and potentially allow the rotations to happen.
Absolutely, and EmilZy with this Wrath probably going to be looking for some plays around the mid and the duo lane. If they can set anything up and take a member of Obey out, it should be a clean Gold Fury coming out of Cringe Crew.
So who are we expecting to go aggressive first here, Tully, out of Obey and Cringe Crew? Obviously, we're going to look at the two junglers overall here, the Hombat and the Bastet. Is it one over the other, and if so, why?
The issue with Cringe Crew's comp is their side lanes are designed to be late game carries, right? You have the Amaterasu with the utility with her aura. Shaggyshenk is just going to be doing a lot of damage with the Freya. So, as a result, they're going to try to bait out Obey to play aggressive in the side lanes and then have Kero with the Janus through space and time take advantage, look for the counter rotation, and that's what Cringe Crew are looking for.
But you talk about playing aggressive in the lane, but the problem is that both their lanes, I mean, the only one they could potentially look at is the duo lane, I guess, because of the fact of how pushed up they are at the moment. It's their own team that are pushing up in that lane. The right-hand side, they could look for Variety, but it is a Ymir.
Absolutely. That's the one thing that Obey has to look out for is the immobile Ymir option. But going for Mark of the Vanguard this early on is going to be pretty difficult. And as long as the ultimate comes out right there, you negate that gank completely.
Oh, the turnaround is here. Repikas running away, but will escape the taunt there. It was a little bit off the mark. At the same time, Purification was used anyway. And you will see Repikas escapes from a failed gank attempt.
Unfortunately, both Zyrhoes and Repikas used their ultimates too close together, and perfectly timed was Variety. He used his ultimate, getting that CC immunity, but CaptainTwig taking a lot of poke. He should be fine, though. And because Variety timed his ultimate before the last hit from Zyrhoes, he was able to survive Repikas' gank.
Well, EmilZy, they've got that hammer onto Twig where he took a lot of poke. Thanks to the Archer minions being there. There was no rotation really that came out of Obey. It was more Cringe Crew looking to counteract that and actually pick off the Ymir a little bit more. But Variety's super safe in that lane, playing that Ymir, and has gone into a bit of penetration now as well with those boots.
And I'm surprised that Repikas elected to go for the right side gank over the left side, because even though the Freya is on his team, but if he can gank the Rama to allow Shaggyshenk to get more levels, then you're going to accelerate the carry potential coming out of this late game magical hunter.
At the moment, Repikas and Kero are going to take the back harpies for now. All stable so far in this game. Just a small 200 gold lead window for Cringe Crew. Like we said, they have to win both games here, Cringe Crew. They cannot lose a single one to Obey, otherwise Obey will take the spot away from them.
And I'm really liking the way Obey has been playing so far, just kind of the waiting game. Normally, I thought it was going to be Cringe Crew. That would be the ones on the more passive side of things, but Obey knows what's at stake as well.
And they might try and pick off Zyrhoes there, who quickly won lated, looking to get away from a potential pin situation with that Ymir and the Bastet around here. And CaptainTwig has hit level 7 now, so a little bit more damage from that bleed available to him, as well as the kitty cats.
The timing of this gank, though, there's nothing really for him to get, so he just needs to be able to share as many minions in the mid wave as possible. PANDALIKE grouping it up really nicely to be able to get that bleed effect on the whole wave. And now just going back into the solo lane, looks like.
And over to the right, you saw him use his ultimate there, more for clearing. But a poke onto Zyrhoes again. He knows the teleport's down for another 30 seconds. If he can force Zyrhoes into an awkward spot to burn mana as well as those potions and sustaining, it will help him out. However, in the jungle, Ataraxia is in a lot of trouble here.
Getting chased down by Shaggyshenk with the Fatalis, going to take out half of the health, and without PANDALIKE's ultimate there, Ataraxia probably would have been about 25%, and then maybe Shaggyshenk could have used his own ultimate to try to secure the kill, or at least force out the ultimate out of Ataraxia.
And on top of that, Ataraxia now at half health, did have Death Toll there, so sustained a little bit off those back harpies, and he's going to go back to lane still. Has to be careful about some more pressure from Shaggy, though, as on the right-hand side, there is a gank attempt, and PANDALIKE's dead already. He's going to crawl down very quickly.
Perfectly positioned, fear no evil against the wall. PANDALIKE had nowhere to go. The ultimate was down. He couldn't react in time anyway, even if it was up. So beautiful first blood coming out of Cringe Crew, and this is what they need for Repikas.
Look at the mid and jungle here. Like Kero is landing these snipes. We saw it in the set against Cyclone on the Janus. He's doing it again. Repikas is engaging, and they're finding the ultimate through, which is allowing him to pick up the kill. It is on PANDALIKE though, but the kill goes away with Repi. Very important.
But EmilZy is really low, and CaptainTwig recognizing this, jumping on in, forcing the jump, looking like he still wants to play aggressive. His pounce,
as well.
His pounce is not available to come back up, and now the ultimate coming out of the dragon.
But now on the back goes CaptainTwig, being chased down by Zyrhoes too, looking to buy time more than anything so he can get his pounce back up. But the hammer comes into play as well. The damage from EmilZy was good, but he's out of mana, and nobody wants to continue committing when the rest of Obey show up.
That was a really risky play from Twig because the ultimate from PANDALIKE was still not available. He was respawning from base, so he wouldn't get into the action anytime soon, recognizing that EmilZy was low, but the ultimate, giving you those important immunity frames, basically takes away a lot of damage from the bleed.
So a very interesting start here. Cringe Crew off to a good one for the time being. They're the ones that are finding the picks, using the Batz and the Janus well, and no real response just yet. But as this game goes on, even if Obey fall behind here, I do like the fact they've got the Bastet now. The split push is always real.
We saw it from DJ Pernicus in the last week and how effective he was on the Bastet. I think he went either 7 or 7 or 8 for 8 that last week, and just showing us the true strength of the split push. But he did go teleport at level 12, so we'll see just how committed CaptainTwig is to this split push, whether or not he picks up that teleport.
And you talk about that teleport with the second relic coming through for him. What other relics would you really see in a Bastet? She doesn't really need a second one, does she?
Honestly, you can even go Frenzy on this Bastet. It works on her kitties. It's very powerful to be able to take out the towers as well as the phoenixes. Even going for a fire giant with Frenzy wouldn't it be a bad idea, especially if you have Ram with you. That's a free fire giant.
Same time, Sunder wouldn't be too bad as well. There's going to be a couple of tanky targets here, right?
Sure.
I guess you could look for something like that.
Sunder would be interesting to go because there's, I would say, more safer relics on that side. Using the reach from PANDALIKE, getting that Sentry Ward a little bit low, but not able to get that last hit, unfortunately. Repikas taking it out.
Well, still 1-0 at the moment, and both teams just vying for the mid-wave contention at the moment. Obviously, the Harpies being down, no buffs respawning just yet. I say that, but Obey speed is coming up relatively soon.
Really slow game, I would say, out of these two teams. Heading into the 9-minute mark, but they're still feeling each other out because they don't want to make the biggest blunder to allow the other team to get this very first important win. PANDALIKE, though, still having his dash charged up. He could easily just keep on dash taunting, try to force these purifications.
Is he tanky enough, though, to be able to do that? I guess that's the worry for him here. Going in the early stages as a Guardian, if you don't get it right, or even if you do, you can be turned on quite quickly.
Even though he's not that tanky at level 8, not even finishing off a defensive item, he does have the meditate, so he could bait out a lot of cooldowns, pop the meditation, and then maybe use his ultimate defensively to get away from the action while the rest of his team tries to clean up.
Well, CaptainTwig in the mid lane going to clear things out with his boys again. Speedbuff has spawned, as is Cringe Crew's about to join at the same time. As we mentioned, it's the right-hand Harpy's also about to come up as well, so we may see a fight on this right-hand side.
That's where all the action has been so far on the right-hand side. We saw a little bit of action on the left where Shaggyshenk was chasing Ataraxia down in the jungle, but after that moment in time, there was nothing between these two late-game hunters, and this is allowing both of them to really get into their groove and their comfortability. That once this Goldfield contention starts happening, you have to be so careful about about getting close to the Rom or the Freya.
I would like to see PANDALIKE maybe go over to the solo lane a little bit here, just to try and pull some people of Cringe Crew that way, put some pressure onto Zyrhoes, and then if things do go well or wrong, they can capitalize on the left with the Athena ultimate coming into play.
It wouldn't be a bad idea at all to do that, especially with Variety having the cooldown reduction now available to him. But on the flip side, Zyrhoes does have the Stone of Gaia, so any sort of poke Variety takes, it's going to be negated. But Gold Fury already
That was so fast.
The wrath coming out of EmilZy. We were talking about this earlier on. If you leave this side of the map exposed, you will get punished by that wrath.
And the wards just come into play again. Cringe Crew burst it so very, very quickly. They did that against Energy as well on day one, that I believe it ended up resulting in them finding that win there because of how well they managed to sneak some of these Gold Furies away in the early stages that nobody even recognized.
Not at all. And now the very first important objective being taken by Cringe Crew. The question is, are they going to be able to do this again? Obey certainly should be able to see once they walk over that ward, it's like, all right, they snuck a Gold Fury in us. Technically, they could be sneaking Gold Furies as well with those kitties, but instead, now they're going to be positioning towards the right-hand side because they don't have to worry about another gold.
And here we go. A bit of pressure, but the Glacial Strike doesn't actually land there. The wall's going to slow down Zyrhoes a bit. The body block's coming to play. The Kitty Cat's forcing the ultimate, but Variety's ultimate will go boom, and that will pick up an answer back from Obey. A little bit late, isn't as worthwhile to Gold Fury, but at least it's something.
No ultimate coming out of Kero trying to bail out Zyrhoes, and no really aggressive wards as well, so great timing from Obey being able to at least get something back after losing the Gold Fury. So now, but they're not done yet. We see PANDALIKE still around here on the right-hand side.
I'm always surprised when teams do end up getting picked just after a Gold Fury. When you take them on for free like that, a team immediately tries to answer back somewhere. You should expect those sort of ganks coming out. Zyrhoes clearly didn't then. He had his ultimate available, didn't manage to get it off in time because the gank came through beforehand. You've got to be aware of the situation.
You have to have that spidey senses tingling in the back of
in
your
a
mind.
Sense, yeah. But it's an obvious spidey sense, you know, because like, oh, we got gold. Oh, they're not going to be able to get a tower. They're going to look for a picker or an invade here.
Yeah, there's no reason to be that far forward anyway, because Ymir is not going to be able to zone you level 13 versus level 13 anyway. You have Stone of Gaia, you have the region that you need between that item as well as your stance switches. So as long as he's there within the melee experience range, closer to his tower line, he can easily retreat to safety.
Still not a bad thing for Cringe Crew overall, though. They'll be happy if it's going to be that's the only trade they get. Zyrhoes for a Gold Fury.
Absolutely.
It's worthwhile.
Absolutely. But look at this. Cringe Crew with a nice lead. Almost 3,500 gold with only that one Gold Fury down.
And with what Cringe Crew have been doing, it's just gone on from what they did against Cyclone here. They're looking for opportunities with Repikas and Kero with these ultimates coming through, and then Shaggy in the later stages will come online.
And most of this lead is on the jungler side of things. It seems that Repikas has been doing a better job at sharing the farm than CaptainTwig has, and that's problematic because the Bastet from behind is not something that you really want to do.
Going aggressive in the jungle over the wall, looking for the hammer. Not going to find Twig there, who pounces away. But it was a big fight over these Ryan Harpies that even Freya and the Rama have turned up from the duo lane to join in with. But the problem is I don't see any other fighting going on now.
No, not at all. With Gold Fury being down, both of these teams feeling a little bit hungry, even for those Harpies alone. So a little bit of poke onto Variety. He's not too worried about that one. On the left-hand side, though, we still haven't seen any action between these two hunters.
Now we saw an auto attack. There you go.
And a rollback.
And a rollback. That's what you have to do. Ataraxia will look to go aggressive if he can, but he's up against the Freya, and he doesn't really like this matchup, it felt. He was kind of struggling against, you know, EmilZy when he faded it off energy.
Ooh, PrettyPriMe getting deleted completely off the map, but now Kero a little bit overextended, trying to get to those portals. Sanctuary buying him a little bit of time, but now with Variety having to retreat under the tower. Repikas, is he going to die? But the snipes!
Ataraxia can't find him. Meanwhile, Repi goes back in, and so does Shaggyshenk. Another two members of Obey are dead. Only Variety and Ataraxia are here, and they can't really do much with just two of them. It's basically a duo lane versus the world right now.
What just happened? Repikas getting the first kill, and now Cringe Crew are just running away with this. They're grouped up as four down the mid lane. Kero trying to come back into this. They want to get more objectives. A nice little whoop onto Variety, but instead going for the bigger play on the tower.
And they should get this tower down as well here, Toli. It all came down to, you could see Repikas and Kero's ults were already down. They did the same combo we saw at the start of the game for sure, and it resulted in one kill that developed into two more.
PrettyPriMe just got like left alone, I guess, or something in the mid lane left, and as a result, taking him out completely. Both of his relics were even used, and he couldn't get out of dodge.
It must have been a lot of engagement for him there in that mid lane then, as we were looking at the duo side of things. So escalating quickly in favor of Cringe Crew. This is the dream if you're a Cringe Crew fan as well. They need the 2-0 here.
Absolutely, they're on the right path, and they're taking advantage of the second relic choice from CaptainTwig, going for a non-team fight relic, going for more of the single target, trying to burst him down, and if Obey doesn't get that initial initiation with the Sunder, with the Ymir freeze glacial strike, then I could see problems if they don't find that kill quickly.
I mean, the Sunder does weaken the frontline target overall there, so they could try and abuse that with the rest of the burst from the team.
Yeah, but you have to be able to position yourself in such a way that you can guarantee this hit. So,
Gotcha.
you can't guarantee it yourself, right? You have to be waiting for Variety to find the freeze, maybe PandaLike to find the taunt, unless everybody's just funneled down a corridor.
It is very similar to D-Claw, though, so if you can play a Bastet, you should be able to land the Sunder.
You should definitely be able to. At this level, CaptainTwig is definitely no slouch at hitting those abilities.
Well, the Gold Fury has respawned for the second time, and Cringe Crew already in position. However, Obey are looking to defend this one already. Gold Fury is bursted to low half health already. PandaLike's coming in, but I think it's going to be too late to stop this one. Taunt before the Wrath goes up, but the Wrath's going to make sure Cringe Crew get the gold. Shaggyshenk took a lot of poke and he's forcing the backside. EmilZy zoning off, but space and time hits big onto PrettyPriMe. He's already dead before he can Thunder Crash away. Fear no evil from Repikas round the back's going to find another one. Shaggyshenk taking out CaptainTwig, and that Variety is surrounded.
And now 2 members down from Obey. They're fighting in a 3v5 spot. The portal is so good. Variety left alone, tries to get off the damage, doesn't get enough, and now that's a third dead. The snipes from Ataraxia finds 2, finds the third, getting EmilZy.
But he gets EmilZy, but is it enough for his team? Because now he's collapsed on, forced to Sanctuary away. Repi looking to body block, still has support from PandaLike, who can't do much on Athena here, and that's why Shaggyshenk's going in on him too. They take out Ataraxia, and the last man to fall will be Frezzy, and the tier 2 tower could even be looked at. I say that, but then they're kind of adamant.
Not at all. Clean Gold Fury, clean D side, only losing 1 member, and that's the 1 member you want is your support, able to group up, and now are they going to go for fire with that low health? That would be way too risky. I thought they were all going to group up down the mid lane, but because of the fact that they were this low, the respawns are coming from PrettyPriMe and CaptainTwig, taking a win, a very small win, and still being able to farm by transitioning into the soul lane.
Well, they get the speed buff there as well, and that minion wave, they're not going to push it into tower, they'll just clear the wave, which will kill the tower anyway, because it's about to die. So, Gold Fury, 5 kills, a speed buff, and a tier 1 tower on the right-hand side. If we go to the grass, you'll see how much that escalated there from the start.
Such a huge lead coming out of Cringe Crew, almost at 500 gold per minute being played at this point in time. This is the perfect rate to get your items online. This is like around the 4th item slot time where Cringe Crew should be able to start grouping up in the 5v5 spots. You got your late game Freya already online. She's level 18. You got the Coerce coming out of EmilZy. Already Zyrhoes is maxing out his aura, so he's going to provide the mobility you really need, especially with Kero's Threshold.
And Bastet's not doing anything. She's 4 levels down now. This pick from Obey into the Bastet has not got anything going.
She does have the top player damage of the game right now, surprisingly enough, actually. It doesn't seem that high to me, but either way, she's been able to make the rotations, look for the players, but hasn't been finding the kills or the objectives.
Or even the red buff there, as it's stolen away by Shaggyshenk on the left-hand side as well. There's a face-it play comparison for you between these 2 junglers. They've both been very hit or miss for the past year, both starting towards hit now as the end of the season approaches.
Repikas coming in second in SWC 2015. CaptainTwig was in Worlds both years, actually. SK in the first one, and then Fnatic in the second one. So both of them having those Worlds experience.
I think Twig is still on target for the longest standing player who comes in LAN overall. Since things began back in the launch tournament, he's been around a very long time, CaptainTwig, but right now in this Bastet, he's up against it in this first game.
And I don't think we've seen a lot of Bastet plays coming out of him. He's more used to the Nemesis, the Hunbats, but it doesn't seem that he was really allowed to play the Hunbats. Instead, they were looking for a different style.
He's trading off against the Monkey, and the Monkey does have a few levels on him still. And the Cringe Crew, just with their superior experience advantage here, not just the gold, are able to take the tier 1 for free. As right-hand side, they're losing a blue buff. Here's an engage.
And Repikas is going to blink in, forcing the purification through space and time, clipping Ataraxia. He's forced out.
This is such a better game from Kero here. We saw him yesterday. He didn't look great. He was in his own head. He even said himself that was the worst performance I've ever had. But today's a different story, and he's making things work.
Variety blinking in, forcing the disengage. PrettyPrime's ultimate zoning away, forcing Shaggyshenk in the sky, but this is not going to be enough. Cringe Crew are still sticking around, and they're able to take it out.
Coerce as well coming into play. Now Zyrhoes over here as well. Variety surrounded. The slow moving Ymir is not going to be here any longer. Zyrhoes gets the kill. Cringe Crew now looking to pressure more. Oh the ultimates are down on Obey.
The portal was so good off of the whoop. Ataraxia barely able to take it to the sky, but Cringe Crew are waiting for him to come back down, easily able to take him out.
And then on top of that, to the back line goes EmilZy to get away there. Shaggy's out of mana here, so I think Cringe Crew may have to back up, and Twig's trying to make it happen, but he got baited in from hammer time.
But look at this PrettyPriMe, he tried to save his teammate, and gonna get deleted. He does find Repikas in the process though, but now only PandaLike is here to defend the left. Cringe Crew gonna get a free Phoenix. That was not even 20 minutes.
Not being funny, that was a stupid decision from Obey there. I will call them out for that one because they couldn't have got the Phoenix there on their own. They were all too low. They didn't have Manu and Shaggyshenk. The ranged abilities wouldn't have been enough to bring down that Phoenix there against the whole team of Obey. They could cycle in to defend. They dive in one by one, Tolly, looking to get low health targets and instead throw lives away and throw a Phoenix away.
They should have waited, like you said, at the Phoenix line, wait for the minutes to enter the tower, wait for the respawns to happen. It seemed that PrettyPriMe wanted to avenge CaptainTwig that went in there. He has the Bastet play, he has the Titan's Bane finish, he does a decent amount of damage for his team, but you can't do it alone.
I actually feel what happened there, that Phoenix, was them making the last desperate attempt to get back in this game. That's almost what it felt like to me. Diving in one by one like that is not something we've seen them do before. I think they felt if they could get 1 or 2 kills out of that one, they had a way back in. But instead, it was a risk versus reward. The reward goes to Cringe Crew because they get a Phoenix.
And the problem was Obey overcommitted trying to defend that tier 2 on the left-hand side. We saw Variety blink initiate, which was fine. It basically forces the disengage, but he uses ultimate really offensively. And on top of this, PrettyPriMe using his ultimate very early in that team fight, trying to zone away and keep that tier 2 tower alive, instead of allowing Cringe Crew to come a little bit closer, take the damage that they need, and then cleaning them up.
And this is the 3rd game in a row now where we've seen Obey. When they've lost these games, they fault themselves. They were out of position was the reason they lost it. Well, they were out of position there, and talking about out of position, CaptainTwig is right now.
Well, he's basically at this point in time in the game where he has to think, all right, how do we get back into this game? Okay, I'm best at with kitties, I have my Titan's Bane, maybe I can go split push.
Or maybe it's to send everybody to the left-hand side so they can go to the right and try and do the fire giant. The problem is they're against the Janus, and Zyrhoes is here too.
Yeah, the mobility coming out of the aura from Zyrhoes, and then the through space and time, there's no possible way to even bait by the left-hand side.
This could be a mistake from Cringe Crew coming in here. They do have a Wrath available to them though, but with Obey being here to try and defend this one, Zyrhoes goes on zone duty, looking for a good ultimate. We'll find that on Variety. Variety gets isolated and picked off. The Fire Giant still aggroed here as Cringe Crew trying to decide whether they want to commit or they want to go for the fire.
Fire Giant below half health. Nobody really to respond on the side of Cringe Crew, so on the side of Obey. So Cringe Crew picking up a clean Fire Giant, even taking a life from Variety.
This is game, Tolly.
That's
for
actual.
Me, this is actual game. He comes back to that Phoenix on the left-hand side. I really feel Obey just committed for the big play. Didn't work out. They went for a second big play at the Fire Giant. Didn't work out. Now it's over.
I'm still looking at the fact that there was no pressure onto Shaggyshenk the whole game. We saw
Bastet.
Captain, like you go Bastet for a reason. You either try to, that's the whole point, right? You bleed the Freya trying to kill her while she's in the sky going in the air, right? But that just never happened. And there was no split push either. CaptainTwig was just so far behind gold-wise. Even about 10 minutes ago, he was down about 1,200 gold when Cringe Crew had a 3,000 gold lead. And it's going to be in the tier 2 mid tower with the Fire Giant. It's going to be a very easy cleanup because both of these Phoenixes are down now. It doesn't seem that Obey really want to go any further outside this mid Phoenix.
Well, Obey had to do something. They get a tier 1 tower in mid lane through Bastet. Here's the last defense for Obey by the looks of it. The drums of war have sounded, but it's not doing a whole lot. Meanwhile, on the front line, one of the frontliners is dead in Variety already. Rampage for Shaggyshenk. They're still working on the Phoenix though, but they'll be very happy. The Fire Giant regen is still on their side.
Just slow and patient is the game on the side of Cringe Crew. They really want to get this 1 point. They're going to need a second one after this. CaptainTwig going in, doing a lot of damage. Going to be able to pounce it back, but he gets swooped.
Though he takes more damage himself. The banished from Shaggyshenk was just so good. Thunder crashing from Prime is like lambs to the slaughter, like lemmings. One by one, Obey funnel in, and one by one they go back to the fountain.
So much damage between the mid-mage and the magical hunter. Great composition coming out of Cringe Crew. Executed perfectly. Obey had no possible response to answer, and now Cringe Crew, they're 1 win away from almost securing Super Regionals.
I mean, Tolly, you know me, and you know I don't go in on teams very often. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but that was just weird from Obey.
Definitely unexpected. I did not expect CaptainTwig to pull out the Bastet.
And the Bastet didn't get going. We said, like, there's a reason you draft Bastet for the split push option. Good against Freya as well, because you can apply the dot damage that will still go up when she goes into Valkyrie's discretion there. As well as Janus, you can chase him down with the pounce or bleed him so he's still taking damage as he goes through the portals. That's kind of what Bastet's there for. But overall, didn't get that going. On top of that, you saw how well the synergy of Kero and Repikas was that game. They gave Kero Janus again, and the Janus came into play.
So good was Kero on the Janus, being able to hit those snipes, being able to reposition himself and his team to get a little bit closer to the action. And the Gold Furies was also really important. We saw a really early Gold Fury coming from Cringe Crew with the Wrath onto EmilZy, and I like that strategy, picking up the Fafnir, because the first pick was the Athena on the side of Obey, and it didn't really work out because not only did you give up Fafnir, you gave up Freya and Fafnir.
But then again, you give it EmilZy or you give it Repikas if Cringe Crew get it. Maybe just ban the Athena from my eyes because I don't think PandaLike's that comfortable on it.
No, not at all. And I think that Obey are going to have to ask themselves in the second game what they really want to do, because I think you just can't give up these late game magical hunters, or at least not punish them, right? So it's either a change of game style or a change in the picks and bans.
It's true, you take each game as it comes, and that game did not go in the favor of Bay whatsoever. Cringe Crew come out on top, 1-0. F-Dot, analysts, tell us all about it.
Not just an early Gold Fury, but an early pretty much everything. And they got that Gold Fury, they might be able to get some Steel Series items, the official hardware of hi-rez esports. All of our players here are using at least the headset, and definitely a big part of what makes us do us. I got a Steel Series keyboard in my office. I actually stole it off the back of the truck.
Yeah, Jared's actually been yelling at me because I keep stealing things. Because he's trying to keep inventory, and he's like, "You can't actually have these." I'm like, I'm borrowing it. It's just temporary.
I'm just testing it.
But I mean, this game. I mean, I think we talked about it in picks and bans. I think Kero's Janus was absolutely insane once again. He was a part of every single kill. This is just a god he's so comfortable on.
Yeah, definitely. He played it really well. He made sure that his team got around everywhere.
Yeah.
And his team is definitely comfortable with him playing it. They know perfectly how to use it. So is he going to run a game 2? Is Obey going to let them? We'll find out soon, hopefully. And then maybe Obey is going to change that plan according to that.
This was so quick, though. I think it was 19 minutes where we saw that the first push onto a Phoenix, right? That's outlandish. These games have not been that quick, and seeing that push at 19 minutes, the game was over, I think, at that point when we saw that push.
Again, I think it was just the really strong objective control coming out of Cringe Crew. We saw it in their set against Cyclone. We did not see it in days 1 or 2, but they've definitely come more prepared. They did not care about the Athena, and that's the thing. I almost feel like Obey pigeonholed themselves into drafting the Athena because they're like, well, we don't really want to waste a ban on it, and EmilZy or PandaLike can play it, so let's just first pick it. But that just allowed that Fafnir Freya. Shaggy has looked so confident in this tournament, and to put him on a god that's going to be, enhanced in that dual lane and, have that early Gold Fury pressure, and really Obey just had no answer.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe Obey didn't expect them to pick the Freya.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because it's weird to give it up knowing that he's going to pick it, but I think Shaggy had a rough game yesterday against Energy, so maybe Obey were like, maybe he's feeling uncomfortable on Freya, we're just going to let it open and hope he doesn't pick it, if they were thinking that it didn't work out. So they're going to have to change that up. And yeah, we'll see in picks and bans now if that's going to change or not. Maybe they'll ban it, maybe they'll pick it themselves, who knows.
Taking a look here, we're at the player damage, but just before I want to touch on one of the few games that didn't really come down to healing or damage mitigated. A lot of our games have been rotating around the healing and the tankiness of the compositions, and because those weren't a factor, player damage became such a big deal.
And it's just Shaggyshenk able to get so much damage off in these fights, and we actually saw, I mean, Ataraxia hit some really nice snipes, but, kind of every time he was able to connect a kill, the team around him's already dead. A really good job by EmilZy controlling the pace of the fight, making sure to jump in when he needs to, really making sure PandaLike wasn't able to get to his backline. I think we did see a big taunt from PandaLike at that Gold Fury, the turning point of the game, hits 4, but there just wasn't any follow-up from Obey. They weren't in a position to contest, and then just EmilZy immediately jumps in afterwards, pops his ult, and then it was just downhill from there.
It's usually Cringe Crew that we talk about making the adaptation to win out in game number 2, but it's Obey's turn to really adjust what happened in game number 1. Adonis, if you're the coach for Obey, what's the one thing you're telling your players to remember?
It's probably, I mean, it's weird. I think they lost, I wouldn't say they lost in picks and bans, but I think they were so concerned about the Athena that they really didn't think about the whole scope of the game at all. They first picked it, and it's not a god they really run often enough that they really utilize the Athena at a high level. It makes sense when you're first picking it in the jungle because you're going for this very distinctive style. Instead, you waste one of your earliest picks on a god that's just any normal support.
How about you, Renz? What do you think the biggest thing here for Obey to adapt to is?
I think for Obey is that as a comp in a whole, they need to pick something that works better from behind if they get behind. Because if you look at this game, you have Bastet from behind, you have Ymir from behind, you have Athena from behind, you have Raijin from behind. There's all just that. They can't really bring something that a Humbatz can bring from behind and still be impactful and useful. All those gods just kind of get walked over and no one cares about them. You see a Ymir from behind and you just like kill him. So yeah, they're definitely gonna have to look for more early game, I guess, and also think about if we get behind or if we get ahead, how are we gonna play around that.
Yeah, I have to.